A promise, I'm back. Good evening once again. Welcome to today's video. We are going to be looking on what we call the blood vessels. If you find this video helpful at the end of it, please make sure to like the video, comment down in the comment section, and please subscribe. Let's go ahead and get started. So now in this video, we are going to be mainly focusing on what we call blood vessels. It is also among the components of the cardiovascular system. We said the cardiovascular system is going to be having three types of what we call the components. We said the first one was the human heart, the second one was what we call the blood, the third one is what we call the blood vessels. And we also talked about the minor kind of the component of the cardiovascular system, which was what we call the valves. In this video, we are going to be mainly focusing on what we call the blood vessels. Let's go ahead and get started. So now we need to first understand what are blood vessels. Blood vessels is going to be a network of interconnected kind of the tubes that provides the passage of what we call the blood. Okay, so now a blood vessels is going to be the network of the network of interconnected tubes, the network of interconnected tubes that provides passage of what we call blood. Okay, so now that is a simplified definition of what we call the blood vessels, the network of interconnected kind of the tube through which our fluid connective tissue is going to be passing from one area to the other. Okay, we have a couple of different types of what we call the blood vessels. Let's go ahead and look on what we call the types of blood vessels. Okay, types of blood vessels. There are going to be approximately around three types of the blood vessels. What are the three types of the blood vessels? And the first type of the blood vessel is going to be what we call the arteries. Okay, it's going to be what we call the arteries. But of course, the arteries can also be further subdivided into other kind of what we call the categories. What are the categories of the arteries? And the first one is going to be what we call the elastic. It's going to be what we call the elastic conducting arteries. Okay, the elastic conducting arteries. And of course, when we talk about the elastic conducting arteries, these are going to be high pressure kind of blood vessels. They are the blood vessels which are going to be elastic, but they are going to be experiencing an extensive amount of what we call the blood pressures. A classic example of what we call elastic conducting artery is going to be what we call the aorta. Okay, it's going to be what we call the aorta, the common carotid arteries, and even also what we call the subclavian arteries. They experience an extensive amount of what we call the blood pressures. Okay, another kind of the category among the arteries is going to be what we call the muscular distributing arteries. Okay, and when we talk of this one, these are going to be the arteries which are going to be feeding the blood direct to what we call to a specific type of the organ. And the classic example of this is going to be what we call the renal artery, which is going to be feeding oxygen-rich blood to what we call to the kidneys, and even also what we call the celiac trunk. Okay, of course, the celiac trunk is going to be giving us three kind of the branches: the left gastric artery, the common hepatic artery, and even also what we call the splenic artery. They are also going to be supplying individual structures within the body. Okay, and even also another kind of the category among the arteries is going to be what we call the arterioles. Okay, and of course, when we talk about the arteries, they are going to be now the smallest kind of the category under what we call the arteries that are going to be high resistance blood vessels. And of course, when we talk about the arterioles, these are going to be high resistance. They are going to be what we call high resistance vessels. Okay. However, we also have another kind of the arterioles which we call the meta-arterioles. Okay, and within this kind of the arterioles, they're going to be having a beautiful kind of the muscular sphincter which regulates how much of the blood should enter into what we call the microcirculation. So now it is such another beautiful thing. So now another category of another type of what we call the blood vessels is going to be what we call the veins. Okay, is going to be what we call the veins. But of course, when we talk about the veins, they are going to be now the big kind of the blood vessels. We also have another kind of the category of vessels which are under the veins, but the smallest on what we call the veins. And those ones are going to be what we call the venues. Okay, they are going to be what we call the venues. So now when we talk about the venues, these are going to be now the smallest vessels which are categorized under what we call the veins. Okay, so now when multiple the venues come together, they can unite and form what we call a big vein. Okay, and of course they can also be called what we call the post capillary vessels. Okay, so now these venues can also be called the post. They're also called the post capillary, the post capillary vessels. And of course, the arterioles, they are also called the pre-capillary vessels. It is also such another beautiful thing. So now, again, another category or type of what we call the blood vessels is going to be what we call the capillaries. What we call the capillaries. When we talk about the capillary, these are going to be thin-walled blood vessels, which are going to be residing between the arteries and then what we call the veins. They are the ones which are going to be playing a beautiful role of what we call exchange of different kind of the substance. And for that reason, the capillaries are also called the exchange vessels. Okay, they are also called exchange. They are also called exchange vessels. Okay, we have a couple of different types of what we call the arteries. We shall go later into the detail and see the different types of the arteries, next of what we call the fenestrated, the sinusoid, the continuous capillaries, and all that. We shall go later into the detail and see exactly where those kind of the capillaries are going to be residing. Okay, so now we have said also these kind of the capillaries are going to be thin-walled. Okay, are going to be thin-walled, and they are going to be located between between arteries, are going to be located between arteries and what we call the veins. Okay, they are one cell thick. Okay, they are one cell thick. Okay, so now, this briefly covers the different types of the blood vessels and some other kind of small kind of the categories that fall under these kind of different types of what we call the blood vessels. So now, in the next video, we are going to go ahead and look at each one of these blood vessels in great detail. We look at what we call the arteries. We come up with a clear illustration of what we call the arteries. We look at its tunic layers, arrangement, and all the different kind of the characteristics of each of one of these kind of these blood vessels. Thank you very much for watching. If you think whatever I've talked is really making sense, is adding to you, you're benefiting, please you can hit the like button, comment down in the comment section, and please subscribe. As always, TUMNAD, until we meet next time. Bye.